Space had a way of making people feel small. Commander Ethan Cole had spent half his life staring into the endless black, but tonight the silence of space felt different. Heavy. The colony ship Astrius drifted slowly through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Thousands of colonists slept in cryogenic chambers below deck, dreaming of a new world humanity had discovered beyond the outer system. It should have been a routine journey. But then the signal arrived. At first, nobody noticed it. A faint pulse of energy, slipping through every communication channel at once. It wasn't directed at the ship specifically. It was aimed at something much bigger. Earth. Commander, you might want to see this. Ethan turned toward the voice of communications, Officer Daniel Brooks. The young officer looked confused, his eyes fixed on the glowing screens in front of him. What is it? Ethan asked. Brooks shook his head slowly. I don't know, sir. It's not a language we've ever seen before. That alone was enough to freeze the entire command deck. Humanity had been listening to the universe for centuries. Radio waves, laser pulses, gravitational echoes. They had heard plenty of strange signals before, but never something like this. Put it on the main display, Ethan said. The holographic projector flickered to life in the center of the bridge. Strange symbols appeared in the air, twisting and shifting like living things. They rearranged themselves rapidly, as if studying the human language in real time. Then suddenly, the message translated itself. A single sentence appeared in clear English. Planet classification, Earth. The crew leaned forward. More text followed. Status, non-threatening. Someone on the bridge chuckled nervously. Well, that's good news, one of the engineers muttered. But the message kept going. Defensive traits, none. Ethan frowned. The next line appeared slowly, almost deliberately. No claws. No teeth. The quiet laughter stopped immediately. Brooks leaned closer to his console. Sir, this signal isn't just reaching us. What do you mean? It's broadcasting everywhere. Earth, Mars, the lunar colonies, every human network is receiving this. Ethan crossed his arms, watching the holographic text hover in the air. Someone or something was evaluating Earth, judging it, classifying it. Any idea where it's coming from? Ethan asked. Brooks tapped rapidly at his controls, trying to trace it now, but the origin keeps shifting. Shifting. Yes, sir. It's bouncing across satellites and deep space relays like it's hiding. A cold feeling crept into Ethan's chest. Signals didn't hide. People hid. Machines hid. And predators hid. Before he could say anything else, the hologram changed again. New text appeared. Galactic database update complete. Then another sentence. Resource world. Earth. The entire bridge went silent. Everyone understood exactly what that meant. A resource world wasn't civilization. It was a target. Brooks suddenly looked pale. Commander, I just detected something near Jupiter. Ethan's head snapped toward him. What kind of something? Brooks swallowed. Ships? How many? The young officer stared at the screen in disbelief. A lot. The main display shifted from a message to a long-range sensor image. Dozens of shapes appeared against the distant stars. Then the computer zoomed in, and the bridge fell into stunned silence. The objects were massive, long, angular vessels that dwarfed any human warship ever built. Alien. There was no other word for them. They drifted slowly through the outer solar system like silent giants. More signals flashed across the sensor board. Multiple vessels confirmed. Brooks said quietly, I'm counting 30, 40, maybe more. The engineer who had laughed earlier now looked sick. They can't be here because of that message, right? No one answered, because deep down, everyone already knew the truth. The message hadn't been a warning. It had been a report. Somewhere out in the galaxy, an alien civilization had studied Earth and decided it was safe to invade. Safe. Weak. Helpless. Ethan clenched his jaw. Are they heading toward Earth? He asked. Brooks shook his head slowly. No, sir. Then where? The officer zoomed the display out again, tracing the projected flight paths. They're moving deeper into the system, toward Mars first. Of course they were. Mars held humanity's largest shipyards. If an enemy wanted to cripple Earth quickly, that was the place to start. Ethan stared at the alien fleet for a long moment. Dozens of warships gliding silently through the dark, completely confident, completely unafraid. Why wouldn't they be? According to their own data, Earth had no claws, no teeth. Ethan turned toward the communication station, opened a priority channel to Earth Command. Brooks nodded immediately. Yes, sir. As the signal began transmitting across millions of kilometers of empty space, Ethan looked back at the alien fleet. They kept moving forward, slow, calm, like hunters approaching an easy meal. But Ethan couldn't shake a strange feeling in the back of his mind, a quiet instinct, the kind humans had carried for thousands of years. Because predators often made one fatal mistake. They judged their prey too quickly, and sometimes the prey bit back. By the time the alien fleet crossed the orbit of Jupiter, the entire human race knew about it. The signal that had first appeared on the Astrius had spread across every communication network on Earth. Governments tried to control the panic. News channels debated endlessly, and scientists rushed to analyze the strange alien classification. But one fact stood out above everything else. The message had labeled Earth as harmless. No claws, no teeth. The alien ships were still moving toward the inner solar system, and humanity had less than 2 days before they reached Mars. In the underground command complex beneath the Rocky Mountains, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Large holographic displays floated above a circular command table, showing the movement of the alien fleet in real time. Dozens of officers and analysts worked quietly around the room. At the center stood Admiral Marcus Hale, the man responsible for Earth's entire defense network. He watched the glowing icons representing the alien ships. 47 confirmed vessels, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. One of the analysts spoke carefully. Admiral, the alien fleet has not attempted communication. No weapons powered. No targeting systems active. Hale nodded slowly. They don't think they need them. Another officer looked up from her console. The message they sent to classification. It's spreading across the entire galactic relay network. Meaning, Hale asked, they weren't just telling us. They were telling everyone. The room went quiet. Humanity hadn't just been labeled harmless. It had been advertised. A weak planet. A resource world. An easy prize. Hale crossed his arms. That explains why they're so confident. One of the younger officers hesitated before speaking. Sir, what if the classification is correct? Hale turned toward him. What do you mean? Well, biologically speaking, humans don't have claws. We don't have fangs. We're physically weaker than most predators on Earth itself. A few officers nodded reluctantly. It was true. Compared to many creatures on their own planet, humans were fragile. But Hale smiled slightly. That's because they're measuring the wrong thing. The officer blinked. Sir, Hale gestured toward the massive screens showing the alien fleet. They're studying us like we're animals. So they're expecting animal defenses. A quiet murmur spread through the room, because everyone suddenly understood what the Admiral meant. Claws, teeth, those were natural weapons. But humanity had never relied on natural weapons. Humans built their own. On the surface of Mars, the alien fleet finally slowed. Their ships drifted silently above the red planet, like a dark storm forming in orbit. Mars Command detected the arrival immediately. Sirens echoed to the massive shipyards carved into the Martian surface. Workers rushed through corridors while defense crews took their positions. But the alien fleet didn't attack. Instead, they simply waited, studying, observing, as if confirming the information in their database. Back on Earth, Admiral Hale watched the situation carefully. Any transmissions from them? He asked. None, sir. Any weapon activity? Still negative. Hale nodded once. Good. An officer looked confused. Good. Yes. The Admiral walked slowly around the command table. They think we're weak. They think we'll panic. He paused. So we won't. Another analyst spoke up. Sir, their ships are positioning around Mars orbital space. Expected. They could destroy the shipyards in minutes if they choose to. Hale turned toward the communications officer. Send the message. The officer hesitated slightly. Just the one message, sir? Yes. The transmission went out seconds later. It was broadcast directly toward the alien fleet. Simple, clear, impossible to misunderstand. 3 words. Leave now. High above Mars, inside the massive alien flagship. The message arrived instantly. Strange alien symbols flashed across curved holographic displays. The translation system processed the human language quickly. Then the words appeared. Leave now. The alien commanders stared at the message. Confusion spread through the bridge. One of them tilted its elongated head slightly. Its voice echoed through the chamber in a low, distorted tone. Is this a threat? Another officer studied the incoming human data streams. No weapon activation detected. No fleet mobilization. So the message has no enforcement. Yes. A quiet ripple of amusement moved through the alien bridge crew. The human species was behaving exactly as expected. Fearful, desperate, issuing empty warnings. The alien commander waved one long clawed hand dismissively. Continue the survey. The fleet resumed its slow movement toward Mars shipyards. The human warning was ignored. Back in Earth's command center, the response from the alien fleet appeared on the screen. Or rather, the lack of response. They're still advancing, the analyst said. Admiral Hale sighed quietly. Well, we tried. He walked toward the central command console. A biometric scanner glowed softly beside it. For a moment, the entire room held its breath, because everyone knew what the next step meant. Hale placed his hand on the scanner. The system verified his identity instantly. A hidden panel opened on the console. Inside was a single switch, bright red, labeled with 2 words, Claw Protocol. One of the younger officers whispered nervously, Sir, are we really going to show them? Hale looked up at the screen showing the alien fleet drifting confidently above Mars. Then he flipped the switch. Yes, he said calmly. It's time they learned something about humans. Across the solar system, something ancient began to wake up. For a few seconds after Admiral Marcus Hale activated the protocol, nothing happened. No explosions, no alarms, no dramatic fleet launch. Just silence, which was exactly how humanity had designed it, because real predators didn't roar before they attacked. They struck. High above Mars, the alien fleet continued its slow survey of the planet. Massive vessels glided through thin orbit like dark mountains floating in space. Long sensor arrays extended from their hulls, scanning the Martian surface and the enormous human shipyards below. Thousands of construction drones were still working. Cargo vessels moved calmly between orbital stations. From the alien perspective, everything confirmed their database entry. Earth civilization was behaving exactly like a prey species. Unorganized, unprepared, helpless. Inside the alien flagship, the command crew watched the human activity with mild curiosity. One officer reported calmly, human ship production facilities confirmed. Primitive but extensive. Another added, population centers detected on the surface. Defensive weapon systems minimal. The fleet commander studied the data. Begin resource acquisition planning. The creature ordered. Yes, Commander. No one on the alien bridge even considered the possibility of danger, because their records were clear. Earth had no claws, no teeth. Near Saturn's rings, something moved. It had been there for years. Hidden, silent, buried deep within the billions of icy fragments that circled the gas giant. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a large asteroid. Rough, irregular, cold, but then the surface cracked open. Gigantic armored plates shifted aside with mechanical precision. Layers of camouflage rock fell away, revealing a structure that had been waiting in absolute silence. A weapon, a massive orbital platform unfolded slowly, stretching out like a metal predator waking from hibernation. Solar collectors expanded, targeting arrays ignited, and deep within the core of the structure, a reactor the size of a city roared to life. The platform had a name, Aegis Station 1. And it was only the beginning. Back in Earth Command, the holographic display changed. New icons appeared across the solar system. Admiral Hale watched them activate one by one. Claw Network Online, an officer reported. Targeting systems synchronizing. Another analyst stared at the screen in disbelief. I had no idea we built this many. Hale smiled faintly. That's the point. For centuries, humanity had prepared for possibility that they were not alone in the universe. And they had asked one simple question. If something came to conquer Earth, how would you stop it before it even reached your planet? The answer had taken decades to build, and it had been hidden everywhere. Inside asteroids, buried in planetary rings, disguised as abandoned satellites. Now, they were waking up. Above Mars, the alien fleet suddenly detected something. One of their sensor officers leaned forward. Commander, unusual energy spike detected near Saturn. The fleet commander barely reacted. Natural phenomenon? Uncertain. Continue monitoring. But before the officer could answer, the first shot was fired. Aegis Station 1 released its magnetic locks. Deep inside the platform, a railgun nearly 2 kilometers long aligned with its target. A solid tungsten projectile, larger than a bus, slid into position. There was no explosion, no flash of light, just a violent surge of electromagnetic force. The projectile accelerated instantly, 10 times the speed of a rifle bullet, then 100 times, then faster than anything the alien fleet had ever recorded. By the time it left the barrel, it was moving so fast it barely existed as matter anymore. The alien fleet never saw it coming. One moment the warship Karveth was drifting peacefully above Mars. The next moment, it vanished. The tungsten spear punched through its hull with such overwhelming kinetic force that the entire vessel disintegrated in a silent burst of debris. No warning, no time to react, just sudden destruction. On the alien flagship, alarms erupted. Ship loss detected. Source of attack unknown. The commander snapped forward. What happened? Before anyone could answer, the second shot hit. Another alien cruiser, shattered instantly. Then a third. Across millions of kilometers of space, the hidden platforms of the Claw network began firing. Railguns thundered silently. Projectiles crossed the solar system in seconds. Alien ships exploded one after another. The fleet formation collapsed into chaos. Panic spread across the alien command bridge. Multiple impacts. Enemy weapon locations unknown. How is this possible? For the first time since entering the solar system, the alien fleet realized something was terribly wrong. Back on the Astrius, Commander Ethan Cole watched the battlefield arrive from Earth Command. The screen showed alien vessels disappearing one by one. Each destruction marker blinked red. The crew on the bridge stared in stunned silence. Brooks whispered, Those shots are coming from Saturn." Ethan nodded slowly. "And Jupiter's moons in the asteroid belt and Neptune orbit." Brooks turned toward him. "Sir, how many of those stations exist?" Ethan looked back at the tactical map. Hundreds of hidden platforms now glowing across the solar system, each one capable of destroying a battleship in seconds. He exhaled quietly. Enough. Another alien ship vanished on the screen. The invaders had entered the solar system, believing Earth had no defenses. No claws. No teeth. Ethan leaned back in his chair and watched the alien fleet scatter in confusion. "They thought we were prey," he said quietly. Across the solar system, another railgun fired, and another alien warship died. But the truth was only just beginning to sink in. Earth did have teeth, and they were very, very sharp. The alien fleet broke formation within minutes. Panic spread to their command network as more ships vanished under the relentless strikes of the hidden railgun platforms. Their sensors screamed with warnings, energy signatures, projectile trajectories, unknown weapon sources. But the data made no sense. The attacks were coming from everywhere. Another vessel lost. Impact from outer system vector. Defense screens ineffective. Inside the alien flagship, chaos erupted across the bridge. Officers shouted over one another, while new damage reports flooded their displays. The fleet commander slammed a clawed limb against the control console. Locate the attacking force. A sensor officer answered immediately, voice trembling. There is no fleet detected. The commander turned slowly. Explain. The officer pointed toward the tactical map. It's not ships, Commander, it's infrastructure. The display zoomed outward across the solar system. Hundreds of tiny icons blinked to life. Hidden stations, buried weapon platforms, orbital cannons disguised as debris fields and dead satellites. The officer finished quietly. They turned their entire solar system into a weapon. For the first time since entering human territory, the alien commander felt something unfamiliar. Concern. Back on Earth, Admiral Marcus Hale watched the battle unfold with a calm expression. The alien ships were scattering now, attempting evasive maneuvers. But that didn't help. The Claw network had been designed to cover every approach vector in the solar system. No matter where the fleet moved, there was always another weapon waiting. Enemy fleet losing cohesion. An analyst reported. Confirmed destruction of 12 vessels. Make that 14. Another officer added as 2 more red markers appeared on the map. Hale folded his arms. They're realizing their mistake. The communications officer glanced over. Sir, the alien fleet is changing course. Retreat. Yes. The admiral nodded slowly. Expected. The younger officers in the room exchanged relieved glances. But Hale didn't celebrate, because the battle wasn't finished yet. Railguns were powerful, but they weren't the only weapons humanity had prepared. He stepped toward another console. Phase 2. Far beyond Mars, in the darkness near Neptune, something else began to move. Unlike the hidden railgun stations, these vessels were not stationary. They had been drifting quietly in deep space for years, running on minimal power, waiting. Now their engines ignited. Stealth carriers, sleek, angular warships nearly invisible to long-range sensors. One after another, they powered up. Massive hangar doors slid open along their hulls. Inside each carrier, rows of human fighter craft sat ready. Thousands of them. A calm voice echoed through the carrier command decks. Pilot groups, prepare for launch. Across the fleet, human pilots climbed into their cockpits. Some were veterans. Some were barely old enough to drink on Earth. But every one of them had trained for this exact moment. A pilot named Lucas Grant tightened the straps of his flight harness and looked out through the canopy of his fighter. The stars outside were beautiful, cold, silent, and somewhere beyond them, an alien fleet was trying to escape. Lucas smiled slightly. Not today. Above Mars, the alien armada accelerated desperately toward the outer solar system. Their ships fired defensive bursts in random directions, trying to intercept the mysterious projectiles still tearing through their formation. But the attack slowed. The hidden railguns stopped firing. For a moment, the alien commander felt relief. Perhaps the human defenses had exhausted themselves. Perhaps the resource world had only one trick. Then the sensor officer spoke again. Commander, new contact detected. The commander leaned forward. How many? The officer zoomed the display outward. Tiny shapes appear along the edge of the tactical screen. Then more, and more. The officer's voice dropped to a whisper. Thousands. Back on Earth, Admiral Hale watched the second phase unfold. The screen filled with blue icons representing human fighters pouring from the stealth carriers. Wave after wave launched into open space. Carrier Groups Alpha through Delta now active. The operations officer reported. Fighter wings approaching interception range. Hale nodded once. Open a channel to the alien flagship. The communications officer hesitated. Sir, during an active battle? Yes. A moment later the channel connected. Across millions of kilometers of space, the alien flagship received the transmission. The human message appeared on their display. A single figure stood in front of a command table. Admiral Marcus Hale. The alien commander studied the human carefully. The creature's voice echoed across the channel. Why are you resisting? Hale didn't look angry. He didn't look afraid. He simply looked tired. We warned you. The alien commander's eyes narrowed. Your species has no biological weapons. No claws. No fangs. You cannot win prolonged conflict against superior forces. Hale allowed himself a small smile. That's where your research failed. He leaned slightly closer to the camera. You studied our bodies. The alien bridge fell silent. Then Hale finished the sentence. But humans have never relied on what we were born with. Behind him, the tactical display showed thousands of human fighters closing rapidly on the alien fleet. The admiral's voice remained calm. We build our own claws. The alien commander stared at the screen, and our own teeth. The transmission ended. Seconds later, the first wave of human fighters arrived. Missiles ignited across the darkness of space. Laser batteries flashed like storms of blue fire. The alien fleet, already damaged and disorganized, suddenly found itself surrounded. Lucas Grant's fighter streaked past a burning alien cruiser. His targeting computer locked onto a massive battleship ahead. He squeezed the trigger. A pair of missiles shot forward. The warhead struck the alien ship's weakened shield and tore straight through the hull. The explosion lit up the void. Around him, thousands of other fighters repeated the attack. The alien fleet's retreat turned into a disaster. Ships exploded. Engines failed. Hull fragments drifted across the battlefield. The once mighty armada was collapsing. Far away, Admiral Hale watched quietly. For centuries, humanity had wondered what would happen when they finally met another intelligent species. Now they knew. The galaxy had assumed Earth was harmless, weak, prey, but they had misunderstood something fundamental about humans. Because predators weren't always the ones with the sharpest claws. Sometimes, they were the ones smart enough to build them. The battle ended faster than anyone expected. Within 20 minutes, the alien fleet that had entered the solar system with absolute confidence was gone. Some ships had been destroyed. Others drifted powerless, their engines shattered and weapons silent. A few managed to escape into deep space, fleeing toward the distant stars with everything they had left. They didn't stop. They didn't look back. Because now they understood something their database had failed to predict. Earth was not prey. Above the shattered battlefield near Mars, thousands of human fighters slowly returned to their carriers. Debris from alien warships floated silently through the darkness. Fragments of armor, broken engines, pieces of technology no human scientist had ever seen before. Commander Lucas Grant guided his fighter back toward the massive stealth carrier that had launched him earlier. His cockpit window reflected the faint glow of burning wreckage. For a moment, he simply stared at it. Hours ago, those ships had arrived believing the entire solar system belonged to them. Now, they were nothing more than drifting metal. His communications channel crackled. "Nice shooting out there, Grant." Lucas smiled faintly. "Thanks." Another pilot chimed in. "You think they'll come back?" Lucas didn't answer right away. Because the truth was nobody knew. Humanity had just revealed its claws to the universe. And once the galaxy learned about them, things would change. Back on Earth, the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains remained quiet. Admiral Marcus Hale stood alone in front of the tactical display. The red enemy markers were gone. In their place were hundreds of blinking signals representing wreckage fields and disabled alien vessels. One of the analysts approached cautiously. "Admiral, the last hostile contact has left the system." Hale nodded slowly. "Any pursuit?" "No, sir. The fighters have been recalled." "Good." The officer hesitated. "Sir, we've begun intercepting transmissions." Hale turned toward him. "From the alien ships?" "Yes. Long-range signals. They're broadcasting everything they recorded during the battle." The admiral let out a quiet breath. Of course they were. The survivors were carrying a message back to the rest of the galaxy. And that message would travel faster than any human ship ever could. "What are they saying?" Hale asked. The officer checked his console. "They're updating their classification database." Hale almost laughed. "Already?" "Yes, sir." The officer turned the display toward him. A new entry had appeared on the alien network. The original classification was still visible. Planet, Earth. Below it, the old report flickered. Status, non-threatening. Defensive traits, none. No claws, no teeth. But now new text was replacing it. The update spread across the screen like a correction to a terrible mistake. Revised classification, high-risk world. More lines appeared. Technological defense capability, extreme. Solar system fortified. Engagement not recommended. Then, finally, the last line appeared. Planetary status, predator civilization. The room fell silent. Hale stared at the words for a long moment. Predator civilization. He supposed that was one way to describe humanity. Not because humans were violent, not because they wanted war, but because when danger appeared, they adapted, they built, they survived. 2 days later, a signal left Earth. Unlike the alien message that had started everything, this one was intentional. Human engineers boosted it through every communication relay they had captured from the damaged alien ships. The transmission spread across nearby star systems like ripples through water. Civilizations that had never even heard of Earth suddenly received a message from a new species. The signal contained only a short announcement. No threats, no boasting, just a statement. Notice to all extrasolar governments. For a moment the transmission paused. Then the final line appeared. Earth does not seek conflict. Another pause. Then the message finished. But Earth would defend itself. Far away, aboard a damaged alien cruiser fleeing through interstellar space, the fleet commander watched the human transmission appear on his console. The creature's bridge was quiet. Most of the officers who had entered the solar system with him were gone, destroyed by weapons they had never imagined possible. The commander replayed the battle footage one more time. Hidden stations emerging from asteroid fields. Railgun projectiles striking with impossible force. Swarms of human fighters tearing apart ships 3 times their size. Everything the alien database had predicted about Earth had been wrong. The commander slowly updated the final note in the report. Additional observation. The creature paused before finishing the sentence. Then it typed the final words. Human species does possess claws and teeth. It transmitted the report to the galactic network. Moments later, the message spread outward to countless civilizations. A warning, a correction, a lesson learned the hard way. Back on Earth, Admiral Hale stepped outside the command complex for the first time since the battle began. Night had fallen over the mountains. Above him, the stars stretched across the sky. Somewhere out there were the civilizations that had just learned humanity existed. Some would be curious. Some would be cautious. Some might even become allies. But none of them would ever make the same mistake again. Because the galaxy now understood Earth's new rule. You could visit peacefully. You could trade. You could explore. But you never came to conquer. Because Earth had claws. Earth had teeth. And if someone tried to take the planet again, humanity would not hesitate to bite back.